Slaying the Colossus. Get in that shit. Pilot the Colossus. Project Robot. I mean, I'm very happy that's you can look at a texture of fabric on a character and go,
oh yeah, instantly.
Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian, you can see it.
And the other thing is that one of the things that you like to talk about is that, like, the way Fumito Ueda makes games is that it always starts with like a single picture, a single image.
Yes.
And this time we got to see that image. And it's a boy climbing up a robot.
But this time you get into the fucking robot.
And also it looked so much like Malice from Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, so the thing is, I'm like, I wish that Last Guardian wasn't the like kind of like combo breaker on the streak. And in Shadow, controlling Dormin was not the smoothest. It wasn't exactly the best part. However, hopefully lessons were learned and Team Ico can, do some cool shit. I'm glad that they are still working on stuff and this is still a thing, Obviously piloting the robot is very exciting for me. And in this case, you just get in its head and it takes off. And it's like, okay, all right, let's see where you're going here.
I guess we're going to jam this robot head into other robots.
Also, pilot a robot with no HUD or UI or like tech things. It's going to be all analog sigils and physically dragging blocks around, very cool. I'm excited. We saw a bunch of other stuff, and then yes, the orchestra reveals an Okami sequel after 18 years. And
would you believe that that's not the most interesting thing about the Okami sequel?
It's Capcom working in conjunction with Studio Clovers.
Clovers? But who could work there? Could it be staffed entirely by a huge exodus of Platinum Games staff?
So Clovers plural studio is now Hideki Kamiya's new venture. And it's funny because, like, this is basically Seeds 2, right?
Yeah.
Because after Team Beautiful became Clover, and then Clover was their own little department within Capcom, and then they kind of separated, and then they left and went to do their own thing. They started up Seeds, and they had a logo for it, and then that never really went anywhere. And so I think they were able to then able to secure outside investing. And then Inaba joined, and then Platinum Games was the big name, and that was the announcement, right? And Seeds was...
And it never loses its luster.
Well, so with this announcement comes some interviews where Kamiya explains that, yes, he's working from his own studio with Capcom on a sequel to Okami. So technically Okami 3, right? Because Okami Den does exist, but technically Okami 4, if not 5.
5 and 6.
Because Okami 1...
Sorry, yeah, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, that's it.
Okami 1, 10 out of 10. Okami 2,
11 out of 10.
Okami 3, though...
8 out of 10.
7, Yeah, so then Okami 4, which handheld, was out there, and I bought it, but I never played it.
I also never played it.
Yeah, but here comes Okami 5. The idea that he's doing that is pretty cool, because you're like, okay, well, obviously that means that if Okami is unlocked, so is Beautiful Joe. And
potential for anything.
Beautiful Joe needs saving, right? Beautiful Joe went way off the rails more. Okami was like long-winded, but ultimately still a pretty cool memory. That got re-released enough times because of, people loved it. Beautiful Joe had some fucking stinkers, and boy, does it suck to be like, yeah, the first one, and then there was 2, and then there was Red Hot Rumble, and then there was an anime that was
an anime.
So
and like Capcom says, hey, we're focusing on reviving dormant IPs, which means that due to the creation of Clovers and Okami 2, the likelihood of God Hand getting anything ever again has gone from absolute zero to maybe more than zero.
Did everyone start saying God Hand because you brought it up on stream? Did you mention it?
No.
Okay.
No, people love God Hand.
Okay.
The children yearn for God Hand.
Okay, because that's a very understandable hope, and we would all love that. However, God Hand is not Kamiya, and to me, I'm like, that's Shinji Mikami. We know this.
Yeah, but
the guy,
whatever happens.
So don't just be like, no, just do it anyway. I'm like, well, no. The reason why Okami's happening is because they waited for the guy who did that, who's now there. So it doesn't mean all old things. It's the things that he worked on.
But Wooly, remember, according to Tim Rogers, according to Shinji Mikami, in God Hand, there was that kid that tuned that punch really well.
Yes.
And that kid was such a good kid.
Okay.
And we don't know where that good kid works now.
Yeah. And there's also Devil May Cry 1, right?
Yeah.
No, I think the possibility of them going back to do anything here is like, yeah, it shows that it can happen. But in this case, we've also got a track record of the last couple of years of Kamiya talking about how he has ideas for the next Okami and ideas for Beautiful Joe and how he would love to work on those things again. Like, he's let that out years ago and we knew that, right? So I think if Mikami had any desire to work on this again, and was willing to partner up from his own studio to do something, then that could be an exciting possibility. But I also think as well that like Okami was much larger and its initial failure of a release was then given like some retribution in re-releasing it. It got cult status and it was re-released 3 times. You know? So that initial fucking however many, like 98,000 copies sold or whatever, it was really bad. Over time, the perception has changed about that. Whereas God Hand is still this one and done fucking crazy ass thing that, you know, got dropped on, I think, PS3 digital store and that was it. Like, it's insane.
I think that what's the craziest takeaway from Kamiya's new thing in Okami is actually what it says about Platinum, because he actually just straight up says, this is why I quit Platinum.
Yeah, he was being very nice about it initially, but when the first interviews were coming out, but he went into it in full detail here.
But now that he has his non-compete clause is over, and he has the team set up and he's working with Capcom, he's like, yeah, Inaba wanted me to jam gas shit into my Ultraman tribute game and I didn't fucking want to.
So what we're learning is essentially the most predictable, unfortunate, you could have guessed this, right? Platinum was trying to be guns for hire to fund the studio for a long time, and that worked until it didn't. And obviously with everything, with the projects that never came to be, you know, with fucking whatchamacallit, scale bound and things that they were hired to work on not really panning out, they were in dire straits. So the idea that they're like, okay, we need to switch this up and start owning our own shit, well, Wonderful 101 is like the only thing that they have.
Yeah, Kamiya in that interview says, I would be more than happy to work with Platinum again on their wholly owned IPs. And it's like, that's kind of passive aggressive as shit, man.
It's literally just Wonderful 101, you know? And yeah, so the idea of like them being able to come in and deliver quality action games for other IPs, it's like that's been established. But when that doesn't make a ton of money, when it doesn't pan out, you know, the days of them coming in for a Revengeance style saving of a dying project didn't really repeat themselves. And it sucks because you're like, these are the people that make the best action, but it was not making money, and it hasn't been for a long time now. And so we remember when we heard the announcement where they were like, we're going to focus on building our own IPs up, and we don't want to have to rely on being guns for hire. We want to be able to like survive on our own with our own name. And so Project GG, you know, and the other project that was started at the time, we've been hearing about for a while, and GG was going to be the kind of like the superhero game that Kamiya was working on. Inaba basically was saying that like the financials were getting worse over time, and they needed to now implement games as a service and live service into most of what they were working on, and a lot of the projects that were being developed were going full live service, and he fought back against Project GG becoming a live service game, and they kind of for months they went back and forth but couldn't come to an agreement where they wanted to just include some live service features even if the full game wouldn't be, because the Inaba looked at it as this is the only way to make money with anything we release from here on out, and it seems like that was enough to break.
I would rather quit, said Kamiya, and then he walked out the door.
That was enough to break the camel's back. He left, and what we're also learning is that he was not the only one.
No, a bunch of people left. A bunch of big people left.
Kenji Saito from Metal Gear Rising, Takehisa Taura from Astral Chain, Masaki Yamanaka from Anarchy Reigns, Abebe Tinari from Bayonetta Origin are also they changed their profile names from Platinum PG to not PG anymore and have unlisted their employment there. So it seems as if they've walked and they're potentially going to be joining Clovers.
It appears that
Kamiya.
Clovers is being made out of primarily dissatisfied Platinum employees.
And when you think about the pedigree that is a studio making the best fucking action, not wanting to draw some people making the games they made, drawing the line at not making them gas games, completely understandable, right? The phrasing that Kamiya used in particular was that like I don't want to put my name on something that I can't defend afterwards, right?
Right.
Like you have to be proud of what you release. And the idea of something that would come out and annoy everybody because you had to buy whatever fucking coins or subscribe to whatever service and da-da-da-da-da, all the ugly things would feel fucking terrible, you know? So yeah, that's a very understandable decision.
It is really interesting how we've been watching this play out over decades, where you have this huge group of developers that can make bangers like Kamiya and Okami and these people. If they wanted to, they could make something that sold 1 billion shitzillion copies. Like they're in their pedigree, right? But they're like, I don't give a fuck about how many it sells. I just want to make the best goddamn games ever. And watching them fucking ping pong multiple times to various companies going, I want to make games that sell bad. Not exactly, but just over and over and over again. No, you should make a game that sells good. I'll quit.
I want one fucking thing, and I'm gonna get it.
I quit last time over them telling me to make games that sold and made money, and I'll quit again.
Here's the thing, and this is the unfun, harsh, realistic, thing to the lesson here. I'm not envious of the fact that Inaba is in a situation where they're like, yeah, we tried, it failed, we're fucking burning out. Right? The idea that they're like, it's not like quality is not it. That's not all. There's more to it. And, you know, something like an Astral Chain can come and then it can go, but it certainly isn't enough to keep the lights on over years and years and years. You have to be a very active studio to be on your own like that. I don't envy that decision, and to then look at it and look at investors and kind of go, well, the only thing that's really satisfying these days is to lean into the trend. That seems to be like, if you say that word or if you say AI, you save everything.
Yeah, and all of their big hits are games for other people. Nier Automata and Astral Chain and shit like that. It's like, that's not theirs.
Yeah. And
Bayonetta isn't theirs, for fuck's sake.
And obviously the option to get bought out at some point was not exercised, right?
No, who would even want them? They don't have anything.
So I just, in terms of like the people that can come in and do a Nier or that can come in and do a Rising, if you just happen to want to be a studio that puts out a bunch of those games for a while, but it's not but anyway, the checks and balances are not adding up, and that's what sucks here, is just the idea that like we can be happy that like there are a group of people that can make the fucking coolest shit And we are excited about that, but if they can't make the ends meet at the end of the day and they have to walk away over these types of decisions that are very understandable, Platinum's obviously not going to be in a great state after this, right? I'm sure that...
Oh, I don't think they have long for this world.
I mean, I think that, like, you know, there's probably people there that might have... who knows, right? This is a desperate gamble to run the gas game. And yeah, I think it sounds like it's a final one. If they don't want to, you know, if they're not going to be like busy with a bunch of teams working on IPs for other people and coming in to do like, oh, we always have a near game in the background. Oh yeah, we've always got a Korra or a Transformers.
Yeah,
or,
they're
you know,
not making
even
Xenoblade out here, man. Like that's the dream for them. Is like the Nintendo would go, hey, you want to make 4 Astral Chain games in a row? But that just didn't happen.
It feels bad that there's no financial security there. And here's the other bit too, and this is like, this is just the nature of time moving. Time moves on, right? The day of a new king draws near. The fact that a lot of other action games now are just Platinum aping and are doing good.
They're doing great.
They're doing great at being like, hey, yeah, our character should have a launcher and then jump up and do an air combo. That would be really fun, actually.
Like, guys, God of War, like, caught up to you.
Action games have taken notes, and now, even in the lightest, most simple sense, even in your brief moments of Zenless Zone Zero, you know, you can have these little tight action sequences go off. You can have, you know, people that are like, oh yeah, dodging and parrying and launch and like high octane action. It's become a thing that like you don't just get from Platinum anymore. Others have rightfully copied notes and are implementing it as well. So they don't have to be the only ones that are delivering that quality, you know? FF16 is an entire fucking experience in shifting one of the premier genres of video games into what Platinum has established.
So one of the things
successfully,
that, there's a thread about Virtua Fighter where people were saying like, hey, what did Pat sacrifice to get all this? And somebody pointed out, hey, do you remember when Pat was talking about Hi-Fi Rush and said, quote, do we even need Platinum anymore? In reference to how good Hi-Fi Rush was. Yeah. Like,
I think so. I don't agree with that in the sense that these folks that we're seeing leaving, these people that are moving, them working on action games is going to make, they're going to make cool shit. I mean, Bayonetta Origins obviously is something else, but I do have high expectations of like the fucking, you know, the final word of action, so to speak. But it is true and it is clear that like the lessons learned from Devil May Cry and Bayonetta have reached out to, again, Final Fantasy and mobile action games. And anytime you need your character to do a cool fucking judgment cut slash thing, you're like, oh yeah, hey, everyone sees the shortcut and gets what that is. Like, okay, yeah, cool. You like that.
The kinds of things, right? And the way your character should move and the types of attacks that are kind of mandatory. And they've spread out. They've been disseminated.
And if they weren't directly influenced by, you know, DMC or Bayo, then they're influenced by Nier, so you get your Stellar Blade, you know?
Yeah.
Wukong, like all these things are just like taking after these established
Capcom and Platinum action direction has seeped into the groundwater. It's there now. It needs to be more.
But I don't think, to me at least, that means it's like, oh, we don't need that anymore / they can be replaced, because I still think we're looking at people that are successfully emulating something very cool, and I feel like that's different from the ones who are innovating it.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think Platinum's been innovating that shit
not for a long time.
Ages.
Not for a long time. But specifically, we talk about Platinum as almost a shorthand for a bunch of fucking sick specific individuals that can make some cool shit. And if we have that list of names, I will always be interested in what they can make.
Well,
You know,
Let's fucking go, Clovers.
let's see what's going on.
Can we get the poison chihuahua from God Hand in the new Okami game, please? I love that fucking thing.
I think God Hand's God Hand. I think anything old Capcom has a chance, but you got to get the right people on it, you know? I also don't imagine Kamiya is going to be like, yeah, I want to work on someone else's baby, you know? Like, he feels like the kind of person
he's done it before.
At the beginning of his career, and now he's like, I want to force you to play shmups.
Yes, he is.
So now that he's in his I'm going to force you to play shmups and you can't tell me shit phase, I'm going to put glasses on everybody phase, watch me drive off in the Lambo unemployed phase. You know, he clearly is like, I'm doing what I want, and what I want is my own babies, and what I care about is Joe riding on the back of Amaterasu in the intro to Marvel 3.
True.
So we'll see, but that's a pretty exciting bit.